These paintings are not landscapes. A painting is not a landscape. A landscape is not a painting. They're what you feel about when walking in the landscape. I've been living in Newlyn for almost 10 years, and I suppose there is 10 years of assimilated walks. Each time you walk along the beach, you walk along the coastal path, it gives you that little bit more information for making a painting. And I think the more information you've got, the better painting you're going to make. I'm not looking for a specific kind of leaf or a specific kind of anything. They just talk to you. They say, look at me almost, and you pick it up and you think, wow, look at those colours, look at those fantastic knobbles on it, look at those edges, look at those holes in it. And you see all these incredible things. I always tend to bring back something when I go on these walks, not knowing exactly what I'm going to do with it, and I place the object on the painting and paint directly on the painting with the piece of grass or the fern or whatever placed absolutely next to the bit of painting that I'm doing. What I enjoy about painting from reality is its sort of unpredictability, strangely enough. Because you're painting from something that you actually see, which you've got to sort of somehow reproduce in front of you, but do it in a totally different way. So every mark you put down has to relate to this thing, but it doesn't necessarily have to look like the thing. It sounds totally ridiculous and full of opposites, but again, that's what painting is. These very intricate little bits of work means that you get so wrapped up in it, time just seems to go by. It's a bit like fishing, where you think you're just standing there with the rod dangling in the water, when in fact it is total concentration. I've been painting this painting for 4 or 5 months. Started before the summer, and it was getting to be almost there, but it just seemed a bit flat. So I've got to try and paint it so you get a bit more layering in it. So I'm going to try and get it a bit lighter in the middle. But maybe not that light. See how it goes anyway. I think I need a bit more green in that one. We'll see what that green look turns out like. Maybe a bit more yellow and white in it. There. People imagine you don't actually know where this paint's going to go, but in fact you have a very good idea, especially with all the knobbles that you put on before. This is acrylic, a kind of green acrylic. But that's going to make the oil stand apart from the sort of water-based acrylic. So it'll sort of run in quite natural sort of rivulets across the surface. So in some way it looks a little bit like the kind of leaf configurations that you get quite naturally recurring on the sort of floors of underneath trees. I don't know whether this is going to work or not, but stick that up there. Up there. I think I'll have to take that down a bit. So you can see the sort of leaf shining through what would have been other leaves. I think I'm going to probably wait for that to dry and then paint some back again, so it's not quite so brilliant green, but we'll see how it dries. Well, that's dried reasonably well now. It's a little darker than what it was before, but I suppose that was always anticipated. I think what I'll do is maybe put one or two more leaves on it, and a few bits of bracken, but some in a realistic way and some in a less realistic way. When I walk along the beach, you look down, you look at the sea, you look at the St Michael's Mount, you see the boats passing by, you look down again and you think, wow, what a fantastic, beautiful stone. I don't really go out thinking that I'm going to pick up a particular type of stone. I just walk along the beach because it's there. This is part of a sort of ongoing series that I've been doing called Cornish Stones, where I collected stones from the beach, just stones that seem to stand out, but have a beauty to themselves, I suppose. And trying to fit them into something which looks like their surroundings, or equate the painting to the surroundings, like bits of rock, bits of water, bits of sand. What I'm going to have to try and do is get the general colour of the stone and then put it down as a block, and afterwards let it dry and then paint the white striations in it. So there's a bit of orange in that. It doesn't look like it, but it is. And it needs a bit more dark. I'm just trying to get the outline of the shape of the stone pretty well exactly, so I can fill it in. It really is amazing how many different kinds of greys you get in one of these things. So this is about the third time this has been painted to get these very, very strange edges that you see there. So it was painted initially with a lot of acrylic paint, and then painted with this shape, cut out and filled in, same as that shape down there that you can't really see very much of now because it's been repainted, and then that's been left to dry, and then the oil paint's been applied on the top of that, and now this is the fourth layer of painting for this work. I know it doesn't look much like it now, but it will when it's finished, when you've got everything on the top of it. It's a bit like watercolour painting where you have to leave the lights and they get slightly darker and darker and darker and darker. You have to sort of have some indication of how you're going to paint it later on. I'll have to let that dry now before I can start painting all the detail in the stone. It should be dry tomorrow as I put some dryers in. I think it's important to have works going in different stages so you use your time economically. Right, I've been experimenting with photograms. So there are stones placed on the top of photographic paper and then exposed to light with a torch from different angles, and then processed, and you end up with a photogram which is something like that. These things were then painted over to reflect the quality of the sea with different kinds of paint. This is a series of photograms that I produced, which turned out, I thought, reasonably good, and therefore I wanted to make a series of paintings that reflected the same quality that you get in the photograms as a painting. So in the photograms you get this wonderful gradation of tone, but still you can still retain the outline of the stones, and so that's what I was attempting to do on the paintings. So you get the outline of the stones and the gradation of tone, and there is always a stone painted on at some point, exactly as in the photograms. After a day's work in the studio, I can go and do an evening's fishing at Drift Reservoir because it's only 5 minutes away. It's not only fishing, it's being inspired by the place. You have a history of the place, you know what it was like 2 weeks ago, you know what it was like 2 years ago, you know what it's like now, and all those experiences, they are the things that my paintings are about, as well as a sense of discovery in the place, of trying to see more things in it than you anticipated. When I'm fishing, I'm in the water, I'm up to my sort of chest in water a lot of the time, and reading the water, looking at all those signs that the ripple on the top of the surface, the bit of the flies that just seem to be hovering over there. It is total concentration. It is like making a painting, a total concentration. Everybody assumes that As a fisherman, you stand there and nothing happens. Everything happens. And that's exactly what you do when you paint. Everything happens. I'm going to get the kind of the shape of that area of grass, that kind of mound. But I like the kind of density of that, so I'm trying to keep somehow that density as well. It sort of looks a little bit like that. With a bit of luck, those things will kind of fall down the white a bit. Then I can start paint over it again, get it a little bit closer. I sometimes think of what Constable said when he wrote that every time he does a painting, the first thing he tries to do is forget that he's ever seen a painting. So what he's trying to do is, and what I'm trying to do, is create something that is not inhibited by the scene that you look at, but is an experience of that scene. You try and make something totally fresh, but nevertheless understandable by an audience.